Look at these. What do you think about it?
Aren't you the one who wants to get out of here?
I'm ready for you.
I'm ready for you.
Let's go. So when you're growing up in Baton Rouge, a lot of the sports that you get into are local sports. They are high school teams, college teams, things that are very based in community. Obviously, a team like LSU or Southern, they play teams from all over the country. But the Saints are different. They're not from your town. They are from your state. If you go somewhere else and you see someone wearing Saints gear, either because they like the colors, because they have a favorite player that's a Saint, they might have gone to the college from their town or something like that, the recognition is different. The Saints seem like a national brand. They're a worldwide brand. They're an NFL team. They're a pro team. And remember, when I grew up, the Pelicans weren't there. And so the only pro sports team on that level that existed in Louisiana were the New Orleans Saints. For a long time, winning was something that other teams did, and the Saints provided them with that. We did a great service to the league by showing up every Sunday and getting our asses kicked in so that another team could experience victory. And even the short bouts of competence that we had, the Dome Patrol, Pat Swilling, Ricky Jackson, all of those guys, they always seemed to be nestled right next to really incredible disappointment, some heart-wrenching, soul-snatching losses, losing in some of the most insane ways. I remember the Saints, and this conversation I had with my dad, we were down 7 against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I can't remember what year it was, but it was during the Hazlitt years. It might have been 2003, 2004. Down 7 against the Jaguars. They scored to go up 7, and so they're kicking off to us for us to get the kickoff, after return a kick. There's maybe like 3 seconds left on the clock, maybe less than that, and the Saints run a kickback. They run the kickback not just because somebody gets loose. We lateraled the ball like 4 or 5 times to return the kick and score the touchdown. And then we missed the extra point. That was being a Saints fan. I'm standing up. I'm going crazy. I'm throwing stuff. I'm cursing. My father looked at me and he was like, "Boy, that's who we are. You better go out there and enjoy your Sunday." That was being a Saints fan. So I'll start a little bit before the hurricane. And I'll make people, I'll get people kind of caught up on what hurricanes meant to me. So we had in the early 90s Hurricane Andrew. And that hurricane was probably the most significant one of my youth prior to Katrina. Came through, the wind was bad. I remember going to buy stuff with my parents to tape the windows up and getting food and batteries, and flashlights and all that stuff, and making sure we had something in case the storm got really bad. When the storm came through, Baton Rouge is a little bit more inland than some of these other cities are. You don't normally get the full brunt of the storm, but also the storm had weakened a little bit by the time it hit us. I remember it being something that was dangerous. I mean, we were out of power. It had a great ecological effect on the state. It wasn't great, but it just wasn't the destruction that we thought it was going to be. I mean, there was a fish kill, wasn't no good fishing for a little while. Things were broken. A lot of people lost a lot of stuff. It was a significant hurricane, but it wasn't this gigantic history-altering event. I remember there were guys outside when the wind was blowing, doing like this, walking against the wind so the wind could kind of push them back. People were playing around with it. And subsequent hurricanes after that always were a little much ado about nothing. We had water, we had flooding, we had all different types of events that weren't even connected to hurricanes, but a lot of times the hurricanes, you wouldn't have to go to work, they would shut down school, whatever, and then not much would happen. I think that because that had been our experience since Andrew, that a lot of people expected the same thing from Hurricane Katrina. that there would be talk about how powerful this hurricane could be, and a lot of hubbub. And then when it got to us, it would be something that we were already ready for. We come from a hurricane place. We know how to deal with them, right? So anyway, hurricane makes a landfall, and guess what happens? It actually misses us a little bit. It does. It veers east just a little bit to where the actual landfall of the hurricane isn't as severe as people thought that it would be. But it was severe enough, of course, as we all know, to breach the levees in New Orleans. And when those broke, the state did. Hurricane came through Baton Rouge, did some damage. Trees got flung around. Tree went through our home, destroyed our home. Happened to a couple of people. But years and years and years and years of neglect, socioeconomic neglect, infrastructure neglect, and civic neglect, or should I say governmental neglect, led to a perfect storm of humanitarian catastrophe that took place right after that. And everybody in the state, particularly those in the southern part of the state, felt it. There was no way not to. It changed me fundamentally forever, because whoever's watching this right now, like, you're hungry. Let's say you get hungry. There are all of these options for you, right? You're gonna drive by places till you choose the place that you're gonna wanna eat. Most of you. I'm sure there's some few food insecure people that are gonna watch this video. I hope that you have the help that you need. But for a lot of people, you're gonna say, hey, I don't wanna eat that today. I wanna eat this today. I wanna eat that today. If you pass by a whole bunch of places that were willing to serve you food, you would just go to a place and then buy something to make, right? Or go home and buy something to make. What would you do if there was no food at the grocery store? What would happen if there was no gas at the gas station? What do you do then? How do you even ask yourself that question? What if society breaks down like that significantly in like an instant? What if one day everything works, and then the day after that, or 2 days after that, 3 days after that, whenever you pop your head back up, you got a 5 o'clock curfew. All of the places that you would go to get food are ransacked and picked over, and there's no gas at the gas station. Like, what do you do? When I saw how quickly society broke down, it changed me fundamentally, because it's all like a house of cards to me after that. You just have to go and try to attack life in the best way that you can. For the population of people in South Louisiana that were dealing with that same thing, a lot of them asked those same questions, but they did it underwater. They did it with their homes destroyed. They did it with their lives destroyed. Generations of people that had been in one place took pride in that place, took pride in the homes that they had built, that didn't have the safety net that wealth or historical access would have given them. And it's just all gone. And the incompetence of the government, something that you pay taxes into that you would think would be there in this moment of cataclysm, it just was borne out over weeks and months and really years of people not understanding and knowing who they had to turn to once the world ended. And that feeling of helplessness, abandonment, and desertion is something that no one from that part of the country will ever be able to forget. When the Superdome became obviously a flashpoint for the horror of Katrina and the aftermath. Everybody knows that the Superdome was used as an evacuation shelter, and the living conditions inside the Superdome and some of the things that happened inside of the Superdome, the damage that was done to the Superdome from the storm itself, a lot of people thought that was the end of the dome. Not just because of the damage done actually by the storm, but what the Superdome represented to some in the aftermath of the storm, that it was no way it could come back like the way we used to look at it. You have to think about the Superdome. When the Superdome was first built, it was most famous thing in the state, one of. It was at one point the largest indoor dome that had been built. It was something that was technologically very significant. It was a sense of pride for the state, like one of the main landmarks in the middle of New Orleans. But we thought it was done. We thought it had lived its life and maybe it was over now. Before then, they on the outside of the dome, they put this big thing, and it said the dome will rise again. And it had it was previewing the fact that the first game back would be the Falcons, hated rivals, hate the Falcons, against the Saints in the dome. And there was hope that things would be semi-normal again. That the Saints would come back to New Orleans, we weren't sure. That the city, I'm from Baton Rouge, but New Orleans is our cousins, and the state doesn't work without them. That the city would come back. And so when that game is actually being played, I'm by myself. Can't watch it with anyone. Everybody's like, oh, it's Monday Night Football. Come watch Monday Night Football with us. We watch Monday Night Football. I couldn't watch Monday Night Football with the crew. Couldn't watch it with my friends Jeff and Dan and Brett, and couldn't watch it with them. Couldn't watch it with them because it was going to be too much. And so seeing the people loving the Saints again, seeing the game being played, and watching it in my room by myself, still in my broke period, just an air mattress and a TV, it was almost like going to church. Just me alone. It's one thing if, I don't know, Drew hits Devery Henderson on a 75-yard streak. That would have been cool. But a special teams play to get it popping, just that one thing. Like, first game back, Steve Gleason at one play resurrected the dome.
The former St. Morton Anderson is here for most field goals. Look out, right through! A pick block by Steve Gleason. It is scooped and scored by Curtis DeLoach. Touchdown, New Orleans!
Hero. Look, man, Steve Gleason has come to mean so much more to the city of New Orleans than just an athlete. He's an intensely brave man whose post-NFL days have meant as much to a lot of people as anything that he did when he was playing for the Saints. But to win the game, not to just come back and, am I about to cry? Like, not to just come back and play in the game, but to win the game. To win the game in that dramatic fashion was just different. Like, our fortunes were never that good. We never got the storybook ending. We always got the cataclysmic end from a football perspective and from a social perspective. Like, it seemed like for at least one night that the world stopped showing Louisiana its ass. And that was my Super Bowl for a long time. Like, that game for a long time was my Super Bowl. It was the biggest thing that the Saints had ever done for me. The vibe was back. The city wasn't quite back. Louisiana wasn't quite back, but there was hope. And hope is just such an immeasurable resource to people. You cannot put a number, a price, a value on hope. Gleason, his play, the block of the punt, for it to happen in that way, for it to happen on Monday Night Football, it's the only game on. People are watching us. People are rooting for us. People are hoping for us. And what you want in a sporting situation like that is for a hero to make a play. And the hero made a play, and he never stopped being a hero for the rest of his life. What it means to me, what that moment means to me, is it really meant to me more than anything that things can get better. Things can change. You're a competent owner away You're a competent government away. You're a competent elected official away. You're a competent activist away. You're a competent action away. Because you lost in the past, doesn't matter how bad you lost. Doesn't matter if you lost a game, if you lost your home, if you lost your city. As long as you're here and you're kicking, things can change. Not just for the Saints, but for South Louisiana, for me, a boy from South Louisiana, for the city of New Orleans, for the city of Baton Rouge. When I see all of the Katrina babies, the kids that were born, when I see all of the talent and the love that has come out of the city since then, when I see the way New Orleans and other areas around there that have rebuilt, when I see now kids who were born in Texas and Atlanta, but who embraced their New Orleans roots because they know that they were displaced, they were refugees of an American city. When I see what happened even after George Bush left office, the election of Barack Obama, it's within our hands to make the type of victories that we want to make. The question is, are we strong enough and smart enough to do it? And I'm happy to say that the Saints got it right for at least that amount of time, that New Orleans has rebounded, and that Louisiana, while we have a long way to go with a lot of the problems that still exist in the state, that we know that they can't throw too much at us that we haven't already seen. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, do you know who that is?
No, man. Why would I know who